The ancient town of Sutton Coldfield, in the West Midlands, has considerable history. And there is one story that is forgotten. One story at the very least. There is an area of woodland near Brace Bridge Pool. The area is referred to as Druid's Well. People forget the history of that place. People forget what people used to see, and sometimes still do. It was said that children would go there and never return. The woods are somewhat dense, although thinned out with pathways now. But if you go back 50, 60 and 100 years ago, things were very different. According to some old publications on ghost stories of the town of Sutton Coldfield, there is said to be a man who walks those woods. It was said by fishermen in the early 20th century who would go to the local inn that there was a man who would be standing on the opposite banks from them. And as soon as they would look away or blink, he would be gone. It became known as a ghost story locally, although now largely forgotten to antiquity. But the thing that should not be forgotten is how only a century ago there was an increase in missing children. Not a huge increase, but enough. Children who would vanish while playing in the woods. They would claim they've seen the tall man in the trees. The children would vanish, and it would be assumed that they had ran away. No evidence would be found. Occasional sightings of this man, including descriptions from fishermen, have suggested that the man wears some kind of dark clothing. Smart clothing, often resembling a suit. Not that people get a clear view. A fleeting glance, or perhaps more disturbingly, a shape of a person in the corner of their eye. According to legend, people who receive fleeting glances, they're being stalked by this man. It is said that the man has no face, and if you are to gaze upon his blank face, he will take you away. No one knows where the people go to, or the purpose of this tall man in the woods. But an interesting fact is how over the course of a decade, several dozen children who used to play in that area vanished at the beginning of the 20th century. Because these disappearances were separated by periods of time, no one seems to have made the connection. Because the bodies were not found, no one assumed any form of foul play. And because the story of the man in the woods was a bit of a folkish tale, told as a ghost story to scare the young, the connection wasn't made. One account from an old woman who has since died claimed that when she was young, at that time, within the first decade of the 20th century, she used to play with her friends, including one boy who was the son of a local vicar. They would go there and play a kind of hide and seek like game. She went to hide. She hid behind a tree. She looked out from behind the tree and saw the boy running towards her. Assuming that he had indeed spotted her, she hid quickly and waited. But he didn't come for her. There was a coolness, a stillness in the woods, a strange quietness. Feeling scared, she looked around, came from her hiding place, and tried to look for the young boy. She couldn't see him anywhere. Being close to the small lake in that area, she walked towards it and looked out across it, looking for her friend, who couldn't be seen anywhere. She caught sight of him, slightly surprised, on the other side of the lake. What was he doing over there? She tried to call at him, but he could not hear. He was going off into the trees. As she went around the edge of the lake, confused about her friend's reasons for going into those parts of the woods, she looked across to the same spot as before, hoping to spot her friend, maybe get his attention. Suddenly she was frozen in fear as she saw a dark man, wearing all black, walking along the lake's edge, as if walking around to meet her. She looked across, it stopped, it looked at her, but not with eyes. There were no eyes, just the palest of faces and the dark suit. She was stuck. She couldn't move. Although she was in shock, although she was paralysed with fear, for just one instant her eyes flickered, the slightest of blinks, and this man was gone. Still fearful, she ran, scared to her very bones, running to where she'd been playing with her friend to get away from this terrible place and that terrible creature. A hand reaches out from the woods, grabs her, she screams, rolls on the floor and tries to get away, soon realising that it's her friend. She looks up, embarrassed but still petrified. They run away to safety, run away out of these woods. The girl was fearful, the boy confused. When they eventually came to a stop, at the edge of the woods, near home, near safety, she asked him a series of questions. Where did he go? What was he doing on the other side of the lake? Who was the man? The boy looked confused. He simply said, I wasn't on the other side of the lake. I was looking for you in the trees. I couldn't find you. Then you came running towards me, and I grabbed you. As the boy explained, it seemed that for him, mere moments had passed. He had seen her duck behind a tree and hide away, and then when he looked for her moments later, she had vanished. And for him it was mere moments until she came running up behind him, up the path, and past the very same tree. Whereas, for the girl, she had gone walking through the woods, walking by the lake, seeing her friend, walking some more, seeing the man, running back. Something very strange had happened. How could it be that for one person, mere moments had passed, whereas for another, many more minutes had passed? How was it that she saw her friend, and yet he hadn't moved from that area of the woods? And who was the tall man on the other side of the lake? Local accounts put all of these stories down to wild imaginations, peculiar mysticism, drunk fishermen, over-imaginative children. But they could not explain why over a dozen children vanished in that area who had reported seeing a man in the woods. Although there are no recent reports of the suited man in that area, there are many reports of shadow-like people looking from behind trees, dark shapes, as if people's heads poking around. People feel intimidated. They feel as if they're being watched. Watched by who? No one's sure. But on cool, damp mornings, some people claim to actually hear the whispering of children.